So our first presenter today is going to be the United Citizens Foundation. Fonda, would you like me to make you presenter so you can do the PowerPoint, or would you like me to pull the PowerPoint up and you can tell me when to advance the slide?
You can pull it up and I'll let you know.
Okay. Let me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on presentation. 1 second. There we go.
All right.
All right. And
so
then,
I take that.
oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to remind everybody, you can unmute yourself to ask questions, but if you're not asking questions, please remember to keep yourself on mute so we can hear the presentation. All right. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I didn't know if I was to start or not. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fonda Tanner. I am the Operations/Outreach Director for United Citizens Foundation. You can advance the slide. United Citizens Foundation was founded in 2010. It started off as a more of a community resource organization, and it quickly evolved into being a school-based mental health services provider. And so pretty much what we do is we're inside 5 schools within CCSD. Prior to COVID, we were actually on site pretty much full time, providing services for students while they were attending classes during their school day. When COVID hit, we kind of had to pivot, and we do have 2 community health clinics that we utilize, one in North Las Vegas, and then we have another center in Southwest Las Vegas. And within those 2 centers, and in collaboration with CCSD, we do provide mental health services and also substance use prevention services as well. We see kids experiencing crisis, anything from SED, severe emotional disturbance, suicidal ideation, behavioral issues. It could be just a host of different things. We also provide services to families. We serve youth and adults that are victims of crime. And we also have funding from the Mental Health Block Grant, which, as I stated before, we can see any youth that has been diagnosed with severe emotional disturbance. And then we also have some money from the Department of Education that can help offset the cost of services for youth that do not have insurance or if they're underinsured. One niche that we are proud of is that we try not to charge any out-of-pocket costs to our clients. And so when the youth and families are in crisis and they need help, we do what we can to provide that service free of charge for the family. We do have community health workers, and what they do is they're able to go out in the community, home-based services. For example, if a family is in need of assistance with Medicaid application or any other human services related application, we can assist with that. If they need wraparound services of any kind, our community health workers can assist with that. If they need help with their intake paperwork in order to begin services, we can also assist with that. You can proceed if you like. And so basically, currently we are in 5 different school-based clinics. You can go, there we go. And what this slide basically is saying is we have been operating in Southern Nevada since 2010. Some of the, all this is stuff I've went through already. We do provide a safe haven. We're very, very proud of the services that we provide. And this slide right here is really cute. We really believe that mental health is just as important as physical health. And so that is the basis of our community health workers. They help bridge in that gap between mental health and physical and emotional health. And so we do love to partner within the community. Currently, we have a lot of different partners. CCSD, of course, we do partner with the Harbor. We do partner with juvenile probation. So the Harbor is more of a prevention. So we try to provide mental health services to kids before to prevent their pipeline to jail or prison. And with juvenile probation, that is a fairly new collaboration where we're helping students and youth kind of reset themselves to live a better life and to have a better future. We also partner with UNLV. We take in any student that is a clinical social worker, and they can complete their practicum hours with our organization. And we also partner with the rural health clinics. So we do have telehealth services as well. And with the rural clinics, what we do, if it's a crisis situation or any other kind of mental health or substance use issue, we work with the clinics to provide telehealth. And that can be done in the client's home, or they can pick a clinic of their choice to go to in order to get the telehealth services. We are in partnership with NAMI, and that involves just bringing awareness to mental health, providing some in-service for teachers. And we do, speaking of teachers, we do provide mental health counseling for teachers under Teachers Help Trust. We have a collaboration with them as well. And to me, that's really holistic. If we're going to provide services for the youth and students, it's really pivotal that we hit the other end of the spectrum as well, which is the teachers. We are working on an agreement with the Boys and Girls Club to help provide services in the region. They do have their own internal therapists, but what we're looking to do is bridging that gap in places where they need help with their capacity. So we're looking forward to that partnership as well. And then most recently, we've collaborated with the East Valley Family Services in order to provide additional mental health services for their clients who do not have insurance or who are victims of crime. And you can proceed to the next slide. Thank you. We've had some media spotlight. Most recently, I don't think this one's on here, but we had a mother of one of our clients actually agree to be interviewed. And the interview was regarding providing mental health services as we're ending COVID, during COVID, and as we're getting out of COVID, and how important that is for youth. You know, as youth were at home, they were more isolated. You know, it was a new time for everyone, and mental health was so pivotal. And so she kind of spoke out about her experience and her child's experience with that. And so it really hit home with us, because a lot of times the therapists don't really know the impact that they're having on the family as a system. And so that testimonial was really critical to help the therapists see the important work that they're doing in the community. And so, yeah, we've been on the Morning Blend, Zip Code magazines, press release, business press, innovation awards. Our CEO is Ash Mercandani, and he's very, very hands-on in the community as well. And he's played a very pivotal role in ensuring that the organization has sustained and will maintain to be a critical resource in the community. And we can proceed. And this is just some testimonials from some of our principals from Hollingsworth Valley. Yeah, the schools that we were in Hollingsworth, we were in Long Valley, Basic, and Brown. And as of right now for summer school, we are back in Valley, we are back in Basic and Brown. And we do take referrals from Long and Hollingsworth as well. And so as we gear up for next school year, we're going to be providing summer services for Cheyenne here in the next couple of weeks. And then that is going to expand into the school year as well. And so we're going to go from 5 school-based clinics to 6. And just hearing these testimonials from the principals is really pivotal, because I know they do what they can to ensure that the experiences that the students have in their school is very functional and you know, provides a way for them to be successful. So we really, really enjoy the collaborations with the principals and other admin staff within the schools. And we can proceed. So I do see a question. Can students from other schools use the services? Of course. We take any referral. The referrals can be from CCSD, they can be from families, they can be from community organizations. And we are able to see those students either at one of our 2 community centers or even on site after hours within the CCSD sites. Within most of the schools, we do have a portable that is outside of the school. And so that does protect the students from, it kind of provides some privacy, if you will, for services. So to answer your question, yes, we can see anyone in the community.
Wanda, who would they contact to refer someone that needs assistance?
Yes, so I did attach our brochure, and that has our contact information, but we have one central phone intake line, and that phone number is 702-888-6300, 702-888-6300. And then we also have an email as well. It is refer@ucfnv.org, and that is also in the brochure that you all should receive after the meeting today.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Feel free to either ask them in the chat or unmute yourself.
And one thing I do want to drive home as far as awareness is the no cost, no out-of-pocket charges. So even if a family has insurance, as of currently, we're not charging for copays or anything like that. So it literally is no out-of-pocket costs. If they meet funding criteria for VOCA, that is also no out-of-pocket costs. If they have SED or severe emotional disturbance, no out-of-pocket costs. If they meet the criteria, which is pretty flexible for our Department of Education funding for youth, again, free of charge.
So we got another question in the chat, and it's, do you offer any type of group support for parents?
We have some affiliations, so we do not offer that on site currently. We did have a group going on at Valley for Youth, but we do have a partner. It's called DAS Incorporated, and they do offer group counseling or group peer-to-peer groups, if you will. I don't know a name for it, but I can send that information via email. And so what that group does is it has parents, single parents, married, what have you, that get together and they kind of go over some obstacles or concerns that they are having as parents, and there is a counselor available to guide that group.
Great. We also got a question, how do students find out about the services? Do they have to get a referral, or is it something else from an adult, or is it just they have access?
Yeah, that's a good question. So within the school settings, typically it's the school nurse or a social worker that sees issues. It could be behavioral issues. It could be some home life stressors that they know about. And so that is the initial cause of the referral. However, parents can call in and self-refer themselves or their kids. And so it doesn't have to be a school. So even if you have a youth within CCSD and you feel that your child is in need of mental health services, you are free to give us a call directly. We do work with partners, but we love the referrals directly from the families as well.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, I want to thank you for your presentation, Fonda. If people think of other questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and we should probably have time at the end to come back to any other questions that come in. And we'll make sure that all the presentations and materials like the brochure that UCF provided us will get sent out to everybody. So you'll have access to that. With that, our next presentation is going to be from Refuge for Women by Robin. Robin, did you want me to make you presenter, or did you just want to talk, or I don't know what works best for you?
You can advance the slides, that's fine.
I don't have your slides.
Oh, I sent them yesterday. Okay.
I'm making you presenter.
Pardon?
If you have, I made you presenters, so if you have them, you can just pull them up.
Hang on. I definitely have them. I just have to find them.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have this ready because I sent them in an email. I gotta find them. Oh my word. Oh, I can't find them. Hang on, I'm gonna find them through my sent email. So I don't know what I did with them.
I will look at my email too to see if I just filed it some reason and did not.
Julie, I just sent them to you. I just found it.
Okay.
I am so
All right,
sorry.
Sorry about that. Let me make myself presenter again. I apologize for that. I don't know how it did get put in the folder.
That's okay.
All right, so it's up.
All right, perfect. So go ahead and advance it. So our mission at Refuge for Women is to empower sexually exploited women to live a life of freedom through faith-based residential healing programs. And you can advance. We at Refuge for Women, we're a national organization. We have locations in 6 states across the country. We have the largest presence in the U.S. with long-term residential care. Our first home in our continuum of care is a 1-year program, and then we have an additional second home, which is an additional 1 year, so 2 years total of residential care. And we have 60 beds across the country, not counting our emergency homes. So like I said, we have 6 long-term program homes. We're located in 5 states, and we have 4 transitional living homes located in 4 states, and then 1 emergency home, which is actually in Kentucky. And this year we're adding 2 more emergency homes across the country and adding 2 more additional transitional living homes across the country. Our goal is that all of our locations would have an emergency home, a program home, and a transitional home, so that we can provide services throughout the entire span as we're working with women. All right, go ahead and advance it. In Las Vegas, we opened our first home, the 1-year long-term program house, in November of 2015. And then we added a second home in July of 2019 that is focusing on transitional living. So the transitional living home is for women who have completed the first home, the first program, or completed a program with someone else that is similar to what we do. So it has to be long-term and residential. And then they can also apply for our transitional living home. Each of our homes accommodates up to 6 women at a time. And that's very intentional because we want the atmosphere in the home to feel very much like it's individualized and it's home and not institutional. So we cap at 6 women at a time. And then I talked about opening an emergency home. That's our next step for our program in Vegas, but that's like we're just entering into those planning stages, so that's a ways out. One of the things that I love about Refuge for Women is that our services and our homes are offered to the residents completely free of charge. And that is, we just want to be able to serve women right where they are and not have those barriers in place for them. So that's one of the things that we've been committed to from day one, is that we won't charge people to do our program. So we love that. I was just talking with somebody the other day who is going to a different program. It's not for sex trafficking, it's for drug and alcohol rehabilitation. And their fee is $45,000 a month. And I about fell over. I'm like, I don't know how anyone can get help if they have to pay that kind of money. Like, that's just so unrealistic. So I love that we can offer our program free. It's great. Go ahead, advance to the next slide. So this just lets you know a little bit about what we do. Our 2-year continuum of care begins with that emergency housing, which focuses on safety and stabilization. Our emergency housing program is 30 to 60 days, so it's short term. And then the long-term program, that's the first house, and that's a 1-year program where we focus on restorative care and healing. And then the final phase is the transitional living, which is an additional year. And that's really focusing on financial stability and healthy living. Go ahead to the next one. This kind of breaks down a little bit of like by topic of the things that we focus on in each of those phases. So phase 1 is the long-term program. And in that program, the first 6 months, we focus on making sure those immediate needs are met: housing, food, clothing, all the things, those just immediate felt needs, crisis intervention, emergency transportation for medical appointments, psychiatric appointments, counseling appointments, whatever the client needs. We do individual case management, trauma counseling, and therapy, and then talk very extensively about trafficking trauma and substance abuse, and do education pieces. In the second phase, which is the next 6 months of that first year program, we add into all of the things from phase 1, life skills, job skills, personal goal setting, education completion. If they do not have a high school diploma, we begin working on their GED at that point. Health and wellness programs, financial planning, and then peer support services. And then in the final phase, we add to that job searching and placement in jobs, housing assistance with getting them into their own place of living, that relational support and accountability. And all the way through the entire program, the counseling continues with weekly counseling with a therapist who's trained in trauma. And then even post moving out of our transitional living home, if the resident still feels that they want to continue in counseling, we continue to provide that for them as long as they feel they need it. So that's an ongoing support that we offer to them. Go ahead to the next slide. This just lets you know a little bit about the number of women that we've served in 2020. We had 14 women come through our home, the 2 homes that we have. You can, I don't need to read you all the data, but you can just read down and see the different types of things that we were able to provide. Since we opened in November of 2015, we've had 20 women graduate from our program. And our national stat on the women who complete our program is 62% of them never return to the life if they complete the program. And since we added the transitional living house to our lineup in Las Vegas, 92% of the ladies who have completed our program and lived in our transitional living home have not returned to the life. So it's very successful, and we're super, super proud of that. We've served 47 women since we opened in November of 2015, and our goal is just to continue to serve more. All right, the next slide. And so everything I talked about up to this point is all about the services that we do for the women themselves, but we also just want people to know that we're available to help within our community as well. We do several types of education for employees on trafficking and on identifying things and noticing what are red flags and what to do. We've done awareness for just different community members in the same field. Also doing education for parents on how to spot things and how to keep your children safe. And then we have an entire education curriculum for middle school and high school students. I think that's the last slide for us.
Yes, it is. Does anybody have any questions about Refuge for Women for Robin?
I don't see any in the chat.
That means your presentation was so good, no. But it was great. Thanks, Robin. If people think of questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat box. I'm going to exit out of this one. And so next we have the Rape Crisis Center, and I think Danielle's going to present on that. Danielle, did you send me slides also and I have misplaced them, or do you want me to make you presenter?
No, if you can make me presenter, that would be great. Can you hear okay?
Yeah, I can. Can everybody else?
Okay, is everybody able to see it okay?
Yep.
Great, okay. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share information about us. I know a lot of the organizations on the call probably have worked with the Rape Crisis Center for many, many years. And so a lot of you may know a lot of this. And I also expect that some folks even that think they know a lot about what we do might be surprised because there is so much new, so many new services and new things happening with us. So hopefully everybody gets caught up. So I thought I would start with just pointing out that our hotline is a part of a national network affiliate of hotlines through RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And there's a little video that I'm hoping this works. It worked when I tested. That just kind of talks about how important this network of hotlines is for survivors of sexual violence and why that, that is so meaningful for them.
I was out celebrating a friend's birthday and she'd invited some acquaintances. He gave me all the attention I wasn't getting at home.
The damage can be so devastating that it affects every part of your life. You don't breathe, you don't sleep. Do you feel that you're not in jail? I'm 300 pounds, a biker, MMA fighter. It can happen to anybody.
It's difficult to trust yourself after you've been assaulted, let alone to trust anyone else. I didn't know what it would look like if I called the hotline. I didn't know what it would look like if I, talked to a legal advocate.
The hotline that RAIN maintains is a great first step, first call. Somebody wants to get help, wants to know what's out there, wants to get what happened to them off their chest. There's so many resources, and there's so much help and love, and so many good people that want to help.
Sometimes it's good to have somebody impartial who doesn't know you and who isn't going to judge you, and somebody who isn't going to be shocked by your story.
You call one time or multiple times, and that's something age, sex, culture, or anything. But they understand what you're going through. And once you tell the story, you're going to become a part of a community of thousands of survivors.
The more I tell my story, the more empowered I feel. Every day I get up and choose to be, a healed person, and I choose to be a survivor.
Simply hearing one person tell me that they understood made all the difference.
So hopefully that gives a little bit of insight into, a small part of the work that we do. Also wanted to give some shout outs to our staff and volunteers that are pictured here. And they're kind of sprinkled throughout the presentation. So a little bit about our, as I like to call it, our herstory. We were founded in 1974 by two women, Florence McClure and Sandra Petta. to serve all victims of sexual assault in the Las Vegas and Southern Nevada community. We started, and actually still technically are, Community Action Against Rape. And then we began using the name Rape Crisis Center about 18 years ago. And I know some of you have actually been involved in our process for identifying a new name. We are very close to being able to unveil what our new name is going to be. And the reason that we are looking at renaming ourselves is really based on a lot of feedback from our clients, as well as community members and community partners, that the word rape in the name does not speak to everybody's experience, and a lot of people don't connect with that word, and it also prevents some survivors from talking about the fact that they do receive services in our organization. So we are looking at making a change coming up here soon, and y'all will be amongst the first to know and see what that's going to be. Our current mission, you see there, is we commit to offering hope, help, and healing to all those affected by sexual violence and exploitation. And we make an impact through the core services of prevention, education, advocacy, and counseling. So those are our main areas of programs and services. That's another reason that we are looking at a name change, is because the crisis portion doesn't really speak to the full breadth of everything that we do. And we really want to have a name that better depicts and represents the full scope and services of the organization. So a couple more pictures there. The photo of the mug that's blown up, that's actually from a piece that one of our teen support group survivors did. I don't know if everybody can read it, but it says, "I don't regret my past because it made me stronger." So in terms of sexual assault advocacy, there's a variety of services that we provide. So we have our main 24-hour hotline, which is answered by trained advocates 24/7. We also added earlier this year an online chat and text support process. And you can see those phone numbers and contact information there. That is available 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And as we get additional volunteers trained and different things, we are looking to expand those hours moving forward. We also are back in person as of this week to responding to victims at the hospital that go for the sexual assault exam physically in person. We have continued to do that on a 24-hour basis by phone during COVID, but we are moving back to in-person services at the hospital thanks to restrictions being lifted. We also do an in-person response at all of the area commands for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department when individuals go in to make a delayed report at any point, and we get called out by the area command to go meet with clients on site at the area commands as well. At the hospital, we always are able to provide clothing assistance, transportation assistance, and basic information and referrals to individuals in need of those services, again, on a 24-hour basis. Long-term advocacy services are many, and just to kind of summarize that, so we will go with individuals to make a police report if they need to get copies of their police reports, just understand what that investigation process looks like. We do support individuals with applying for victims of crime compensation, both county and state. We accompany clients to court at all stages of the court process. We also have a school-based advocate who works specifically with K through 12 students on any issues related to the abuse or assault. So say the perpetrator is another student at the school, maybe there's no criminal case that gets filed, and so that those students have to go to school together, and that victim wants support in creating safety plans or changing their schedule or other things that need intervention from administration at the school or sometimes at the school district. And so our school-based advocate is able to support them and help them advocate for themselves, and also make sure that they are being heard and getting the support that they need. We also have a youth and family advocate who works with families of younger children, kind of preschool aged, and in particular those that are impacted by child sexual abuse when the perpetrator is a family member, and kind of dealing with all of those family issues and dynamics and things that they have to work through related to that. We also have a PRIA advocate who works specifically with incarcerated and detained survivors of sexual violence, and also works with those that may be assaulted while they are in detention, as well as a number of community and referrals and information. The RISE program is one of our newer programs. We added it about a year and a half ago, and that is entirely focused on serving survivors and victims of human trafficking of all forms. So there is a crisis response component to that program as well. It's called our Alert Hotline, which is in partnership with law enforcement and responds in person on a 24-hour basis to any identified victim of any form of human trafficking. As well as receives calls through the National Human Trafficking Hotline run by the Polaris Project. And with those individuals, we're able to help get them transported back home if this is not their home of origin. We can work with them on long-term intensive case management for really however long they need services. In some cases, it's a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and in several cases, we've worked with clients for several years. We also are able to get them into shelter and housing programs and just provide a wide array of comprehensive support, in large measure in partnership with many of those of you on the call, and you know who you are. We also have a full service counseling center. So we have 12 therapists that work with us at this point in the counseling center. They all have specific experience and interest in working with victims of sexual abuse and assault and the specific trauma tied to that, as well as human trafficking. We do counseling in both English and Spanish, and serve clients ages 4 and up of all gender identities who have been victims of sexual abuse or assault at any point in their lifetime. So it doesn't have to be something that happened recently. We see a lot of adult survivors of child sexual abuse and other individuals that have been impacted at some point, maybe never talked about it or never reported it, but are still able to access services. We also do provide support to secondary victims, in particular parents. We do a lot of work with the parents of victims and have a lot of services for them. And we also provide therapists to serve clients at the Embracing Project, serving youth victims of commercial sexual exploitation. We do not ever turn clients away in the counseling center based on an inability to pay or a lack of insurance or anything like that. Because of that, we are pretty much always on a wait list for counseling services, so that's an unfortunate trade-off. But the center does provide services 6 days a week and also goes into the evening hours, so we provide services in non-traditional hours to accommodate clients' needs. We also have added teletherapy options this year with COVID, and will continue to offer that as an option. And we also do provide transportation support for those for whom that may be a barrier to accessing services. So a couple more pictures. A lot of you know Wendy Losada. She is our longest serving advocate at this point, so you can see her there at one of our staff retreats. And then the other photo is a group of our survivors that participated in our Denim Day event a few years ago. So outside of the counseling center, or in addition to individual therapy, I should say, we also offer a large number of support groups. And we do offer a support group orientation every week. It's on Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. And the services are, that are available to them. Our clinical director actually does the orientation and is able to assess whether folks are an appropriate fit for groups and for which groups, and then kind of direct them in whatever might be most beneficial for them. So that's kind of all the different groups that we do have going. And again, most of the groups are available in both English and Spanish for the various groups. We also have a large prevention and education department. So we do school-based prevention and education programs, 3 that are targeted for elementary school age children, and then 1 that is targeted for middle and high school age children. And those are, again, provided free of charge to the schools. And we're able to not only provide those directly, but we also have added a component of training teachers to be able to facilitate our curricula. And so that's a new component that's been added recently. And we're doing that through a professional education course with CCSD. So that's something that teachers can enroll in, and then they get the materials to offer our curricula and be able to present it to the schools themselves. And then our Party Smart campaign and our hospitality industry prevention training is called Stay Safe, which is targeted primarily for the security industry in the hospitality world, as well as our program called Saint, which is for other professionals within the hospitality realm. So front desk, housekeeping, even valet, all different paraprofessionals within the hospitality industry can get training on how to identify a potential somebody who is vulnerable and is a potential victim of sexual assault, and also how to identify potential predatory behavior and intervene to prevent assaults from happening. And we also do anti-human trafficking training, in particular targeted to individuals within healthcare industry, housing service providers, and transportation service providers. Other prevention programs are our Enough Abuse campaign, which is specifically targeted to educate adults on how to protect children from child sexual abuse and prevent it from happening. So that can be parents. It also is targeted to teachers and other youth serving organizations on ways that they can gain more knowledge on preventing child sexual abuse, as well as policies that they can put in place at organizations to make it a safer environment and less likely for abuse to be able to occur. As I said, we work in collaboration and partnership with many, many, many organizations. The one thing I did want to specifically shout out is, as an organization, we do not have or operate a shelter or housing program. So we rely very heavily on our partners to provide those services. And so I just listed out some of the partners that we do work specifically with on that. And again, that's for both sexual assault and human trafficking clients. So we work very closely with the Shade Tree, with St. Jude's Ranch for Children, Safe Nest, Safe House, as well as with their new program, the Embracing Project Rite of Passage as well. We also work very closely with many of those of you who are community and system-based advocates that work similarly with our clients. And then we are the specific victim service grant partner to the Southern Nevada Human Trafficking Task Force for human trafficking victim services. We could not do most of what we do without our volunteers. They are amazing, and I did not want to pass up the opportunity to give them a shout out. I also wanted to give a nod to our advocacy training, which we now call AU, which stands for Advocate University. It is now an accredited training through the National Advocate Credentialing Program, so folks can actually become an accredited advocate by going through AU. And we do hold it 3 times each year. In fact, tonight is the last night of our last AU of the fiscal year. The next one will be coming up in September. And that will, and we do open the Advocate University to partner agencies and organizations for their staff and other volunteers if they don't have an advocate training program. So that is something that we are happy to open to many of our partners. So a little bit about our services in 2020. We averaged about 375 calls to our hotline each month. We served a little under 500 victims of sexual assault at the hospital last year. That is down as it was, from what we understand, in many organizations across the country that have hospital-based sexual assault exam programs. Due to COVID and the reluctance of individuals to access that service within a hospital setting because of the pandemic. We are already seeing those numbers start to tick back up. I believe our director of advocacy told me they did 3 hospital visits yesterday. So we are definitely seeing those numbers tick back up as things reopen. We served a little over 120 victims of human trafficking in 2020. We served an average of a little over 140 individuals each month in our counseling center. So that has been a huge area of demand and need, particularly during the pandemic. We provided over 4,300 hours of counseling during 2020. So that was a huge jump from 2019. Referring back to 2019, because 2020 was not obviously the greatest year for support groups, but in 2019 we served on average 40 people weekly participating in various support groups. We utilized over 5,000 hours of volunteer assistance last year, and even with the pandemic we were able to reach more than 3,500 individuals with prevention and education programs. So sorry, I know I talked really fast. I was trying to be respectful of time, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I haven't seen any questions pop up for rape crisis in the chat. Does anybody have any? They didn't feel comfortable writing in the chat and you just want to say verbally, or if you want a private message or whatever, you're welcome to do any of that. We did get a question for Robin at Refuge. They were wondering if for the education for middle school and high school students, are you presenting in schools within Clark County School District? And Robin said that they have presented at some after-school programs within Clark County schools that are run by other groups, but not directly within Clark County schools. But they're very open for that. And they said, thank you. We heard that it's really hard to get in or to be able to get approval to present within the schools. And they were wondering if Refuge was able to and how they were able to work through that process. Robin replied that they have found that it is difficult as well, but they can work with groups like Core Academy who meet in the school. So that was helpful. But yeah, I still haven't seen any questions pop up in the chat for rape crisis. Do you guys have any other questions or want to talk about anything else related to either of any of these service providers? We did hear that your training program over at Rape Crisis is a great training program, so thank you for that.
So I want to thank everybody while we're waiting to see if there's any other comments. I wanted to thank all three of you guys for presenting. It really is great to hear that the work that agencies are doing, and for us to all have a conversation and the ability to chat about what's going on. And so I'm very thankful for you guys volunteering. And it looks like there's a comment in the chat that says they're looking forward to the new name reveal for the Rape Crisis Center. So
me too.
Anybody else have anything about anything that you guys want to talk about? Okay, next month, the presentations will be by Safe House, Crisis Support Services, and Community Counseling Center. So that's what you can be looking forward to for July. And I really want to thank you guys for attending too, because I know these are voluntary, and I'm hoping that people are getting some value out of the meetings and learning stuff. Dean, do you have any other closing comments, or does anybody else?
I don't. I just want to thank everybody for attending and thank those presenters. I know this can be a little intimidating sometimes, but I think the presentations have been fun and very informative. So thank you guys all for participating in this. It's great.